Yeah, so a big welcome to this International Somatic Coaching Network session. So this is going to be about Dan Siegel and his Wheel of Awareness. And I really love it, actually. I have tinkered with it, I'm afraid. I have added a bit to it. And the way that I use his Wheel of Awareness, so you can go onto his website and I'll send links with this recording. But you can go onto his website and he has a sort of 20-minute centering, which takes you through the wheel. And the way I often use this in my coaching is with people, particularly people who have just identified or who are, working through being neurodivergent in some kind of way. And the reason why that seems to work is because what it does is it enables you to notice your response to using all of your different awarenesses. So, your awarenesses of what is outside of you and what is inside of you, and to be able to get a sense of what settles you and helps you to be able to, just be more able to be that centered, and also what doesn't as well. So I have worked with somebody who we went through this, and actually for her, looking, so the sense of looking was the one that disorientated her the most. So it's that's kind of one of the ways I use it, because it is a more lengthy centering practice than other ones are. And so I use it often with people who are wanting to kind of explore all of that in one session, so that they can get a sense of yeah, where it helps them to settle, and what doesn't, and to kind of, then sort of think about what that means. So I'm just wondering who here, if anybody is a fan of Dan Siegel, or even if you're not a fan, if you've come across him, what you think. Anybody here?
I'm just looking him up now. So I'm just being introduced to him, honestly.
Ah, right. Yes. Well, so he's a professor from Stanford University. And what I love about him is that I think it was in the 1990s, he was trying to sort of work out what, the mind was. And he realized that there wasn't a definition of the mind. And so what he did is he got a number of different professions, sort of like, I think 25 different professions, so experts and world class experts in their field, to kind of get together and think about what does the mind mean, so that they could have a consistent definition. And so I kind of love that sense of curiosity and going outside your boundaries and everything. And he works a lot with families and with children, and so he's very good at creating metaphors that help people to be able to understand the complexity of our brains in a way which works for us. So, if you do go and have a play on his website, you'll find all sorts of metaphors. So he's got one where he talks about, you know, um, something about your lid. So it's like the idea that the prefrontal cortex is where you are able to make decisions, think about the future, all of those kinds of more high level critical thinking. And it's flip your lid. So he has this image of when you actually get, really stressed or really kind of disconnected or whatever, then you flip your lid, and that you don't have that link to that part of your brain anymore. So he's very rich in metaphor, which I really love. Um, so yeah, so this wheel of awareness is also a metaphor that he uses. So he has a picture, and I'll share it at some point today while we're kind of having this call. But in it, he has this idea that there is the hub in the middle, which is the place of knowing. And there's almost to me like a sort of sense of consciousness. And he calls it, it's a really ugly term, I don't like it at all, but he calls it moi. And what he means is me and we. So it's that sense of consciousness where you kind of go into something that is yourself, maybe with a capital S, and also sort of connection with what's wider than you. So you're this place of knowing, and that's what you're playing with. You're playing with the idea that there is a spoke that's on this wheel of awareness, and from that place of knowing, you're sending your spoke out into ways of being able to be aware of what's happening in the outside world, inner world, etc. And then there is for him, he talks a lot about integration. And so for him, wellness is about being able to put your attention in different ways very flexibly, and that being able to do that fairly fluidly and using as many different ways of being aware is what integrates and creates wellness. So I really, and since I've been using this metaphor, this centering, I found it really, really fun to play with, and that sense of being able to be more flexible with my awareness and to be able to shift it. I really kind of quite enjoy that. So I'm not a talker. Yeah, you wouldn't think it because the way I'm rabbiting on, but I'm not a talker. So I'm just going to pause and see if you've got any questions, thoughts, observations. It gives me a bit of a break as well.
Well, Caroline, I love the metaphor. Metaphors don't always work for me, but often they do. And I'm a keen cyclist, so as soon as you get to hubs and spokes, I can can relate to
You've
that.
got your wheel there.
I've got my wheel. I've got my wheel.
Yeah.
But I think more beyond the metaphor, I really like that sense of duality, that the more that we go within, the better able we are to connect without. And
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. And that's definitely bear out my own personal experience. The more I can
Yes.
feel my sense of self, the more able I am to reach out and appreciate others' sense of self.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because I can remember somebody saying to me about, oh, too much navel gazing. And I think there is that sense of like almost a sense of if you go into yourself that you're going to disconnect. But actually, for me, that sense of being able to go into myself actually as you've kind of said much more eloquently than me really does it enables me to be connected with other humans and other creatures and you know inanimate objects the sense of connection really kind of grows. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you.
For me, there's a difference between connection and rumination.
Yes.
Two very different things. One's a place of
Yes.
clarity. The other is a place that we all know only too well, but is a place
Especially
of
at 3 o'clock in the morning.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's, when we go round the wheel of awareness and we do it, actually, one of the awarenesses that we play with is thoughts as well. And so, he has got a way of being able to maybe be able to kind of have a different relationship with those inner sentences, which then sometimes can go to rumination, and rumination being that thing where you can't get off the loop. You're just going round having imaginary conversations with somebody, and then you're back on the loop again, driving yourself completely nuts and kind of getting nowhere. So it'll be interesting to see at the end of the centering kind of what you make of it in relation to that. Yeah,
Yeah, looking forward to it.
good. Any other thoughts, comments? I feel quite excited to do this. I'll be much calmer once I start. Okay, right. Well, then let's get started. And feel free to switch off your screen if you prefer to. And you can, well, the first part of this I will ask you to do with your eyes open. And if you are able to do the centering practice with your eyes open, that's great. If you'd rather not, then that is also fine as well. The reason for having your eyes open is that it enables you to be able to learn to center even when you're doing things. So I've found it really useful when I've been in a difficult meeting, for example, then I can center and nobody knows basically that that is what I'm doing. Whereas if you have to shut your eyes, you usually have to go to the loo or somewhere else to shut your eyes, because it's a bit strange being in a meeting with your eyes shut. So what I'm going to do is, yeah, I'm just going to get myself in a sort of more centered position. So just shift yourself. You can do this standing up, sitting down, however you feel. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through the wheel of awareness, and then I'll kind of just quickly go over kind of what we've done. But we're going to start with the external senses. So this is exteroception. So, you know, our 5 senses that we know about, which are smell, sight, hearing, taste, and touch. And so 4 of those are based in our faces. So obviously touch is kind of, you know, wider than that, our whole skin. But actually, you know, quite often that can be why we've got quite a lot of tension in our faces. So first of all, we're going to kind of connect with perhaps that sense of that hub, that place that, you know, is the place where the attention is coming from. Just let you sort of, and don't worry at any point if you're like, this isn't working for me or whatever, because what we're doing all the way through this is noticing what feels familiar, what doesn't feel familiar, what's comfortable, not comfortable. So it's a kind of experiment, really. So yeah, from that place. So the first of the external senses that we're going to play with is the sense of looking, of seeing. So what I'd like you to do is, it's almost like you're an alien and you've landed and you're looking at what's around you for the first time. And you're letting your eyes do the looking. So rather than it being, you know, thinking about or whatever, your eyes are doing the looking. And if there's any judgment, because quite often I have judgment about how tidy my house is or anything like that, then just notice that judgment. Let yourself look. And as you do, maybe notice the size of shapes. Notice the density. Maybe notice the different colours. Notice the textures that you can see. Letting your eyes just do that looking, noticing what they're noticing. And then we're going to switch to the sense of hearing. So this is the same thing. So noticing what you can hear. So it might be a bit of a hum from your laptop. Might be some noises from outside. Maybe even your tummy rumbling or something that you can hear from your own body. There might be a pet, or somebody else in the room. Sound of your own breathing. So with all of these things, we're noticing what that's like. And we're going to move to touch. So I invite you to allow your hand, maybe the back of your hand, maybe your arm, maybe even your foot or something, but allow yourself to touch wherever, you know, like you can touch the table, maybe even, you know, the skin of your wrist or something. So noticing that feeling of touch and what that is like. What it's like to touch different things with different textures. And we're going to move to one that maybe is a harder one to do, but the sense of taste. So it's just kind of noticing if there's any particular taste in your mouth, or what that's like to even notice whatever is happening in your taste buds and your tongue. And it might be something that during the rest of the day, as you drink something or if you eat something, just let yourself spend a little bit more time than normal noticing what that's like in your mouth. And then finally, the last of our exteroceptive awarenesses, which is the sense of smell, which might be hard if you've had COVID and you haven't regained your sense of smell. But what can you notice? And again, this one might be more elusive. It might be something that is wafting through on a breeze. I know for me, it's quite often smell of dog, wet dog. So those are the exteroceptive senses, and we're going to move our spoke through the wheel, and we're going to move to interoception and proprioception. So Dan doesn't use proprioception in his, but I've included this. So we're going to start with interoception, which is our sense, our internal sense. So that sense of noticing what's happening in your body. So it might be that you want to put a hand somewhere to notice, perhaps a hand on your chest or on your belly, noticing what's happening there. Noticing in your body if there's any particular part that's contracted, maybe a little bit tense, or maybe numb. Noticing maybe where there's more space in your body. Noticing your feet on the floor. Perhaps doing a little body scan from your feet up your legs, calves, knees, thighs, the bottom, up your spine to your head. And noticing the whole of your trunk and your limbs and your head on top of your spine. So that interoceptive, what's happening inside you and how you are noticing your body. And then we're going to move to proprioception, And here, feel free to take your video off if you want, because I'm going to ask you to move. So proprioception is about how we move in space. So this is about, you know, the ear canals and all of the things that we need for balance so that we can move through a door without banging into it. And there are some people who, you know, that's proprioception is something that they struggle with, and they, you know, that sense of being able to move through space. But you know, have a play with pushing your arms around and noticing kind of how your arms know kind of where they're not, where they're going to bash into something, where they're not. And you might want to do like a figure of 8 with your hips, because quite often our hips get very static and the way that we move is quite static. And doing a figure of 8 can just be like oh, right, what's that like, that movement as I move? And then I let the rest of my body kind of do that figure of 8 and see what that is like. And that sense of, you know, what's it like if I move my legs out more, or my arms out more, or my head? Or what's it like if perhaps I follow my nose, and my nose becomes the lead for my body moving? This is all about playing with your body in space and seeing what that is like. Mm. And we're going to move now to what Dan calls the 7th sense. So these are all our mental activities. So if you want to take a seat, then do, or if you want to still stand, then stand. So the first that we're going to do is to notice our thoughts. So we often have thoughts going on in our head, and we don't kind of necessarily notice when they've arrived, and we don't notice when they go. There's almost like a sense of your thoughts being birds that are flying through the vista of your brain. And at some point they come in and then they go off. And so, you know, it's like noticing that, you know, how did that, when or where did you notice that thought that came in? And then are you able to notice when it just eases away out of your view? It's that sense of, rather than getting attached to our thoughts, you know, I shouldn't be thinking this, or whatever. It's like, oh, there goes that thought. It's just flying through, and then it's going to fly by at some point. So it's that kind of sense of noticing being really key to what we're doing here. And then other mental activities we have are dreams. So kind of maybe there might be a fragment of a dream, or not. There might be. Sometimes there's a fragment of a dream that's, you know, when we wake up, it's it sort of is there somewhere. And sometimes if it's important or it feels, it comes back or not. And then metaphors and pictures that we have in our brains, and images and poetry. So it's those kind of word-based, but also visual mental activities that we can have. Letting yourself invite, if that feels okay, to invite the mental images that you want to invite. And if at any point this feels like, ooh, not quite sure about that, you can always just step off this wheel of awareness. Do what you need to do to restore balance. And we're going to move to the 8th sense of awareness, which is connection. So again, noticing that connection that you have with your body. And, you know, as somatic coaches, that's kind of one of the things I think is that we have built and we're building a sense of trust in our own bodies. And then when we are with our clients, we're able to bring that sense of trust in our own bodies so that they are able to be in that place. So that connection with yourself, and then turn your attention outwards. So there might be people in the building that you're in. Just turning your attention to those people. And then turning your attention outwards. Maybe you're in a village or a town or a city, and there are other people around. And going outwards, and there might be some people that are in different continents that are special to you. So bringing them to mind and that sense of connection. And it might be that nature is what connects you, or rivers, or mountains, or noticing that sense of connection. And then finally, having gone through that, we've gone round the rim. The spoke has gone round using these different ways of awarenesses. We're going to turn back to the hub, to that sense of knowing, what Dan Siegel calls Maui. And as we return to that place, just noticing if there is anything different in how you're experiencing it from when we started. Noticing what that hub, that Maui, what that is like when you bring that in intentionally from this place of having played with our wheel of awareness. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to just kind of allow yourself to end this wheel of awareness, and then we will have a bit of a chat about it. I'm just interested in your experience there, if you're happy to share it.
I found that was really interesting because at the beginning, that place of knowing, I just didn't have anything. I couldn't connect to it at all. And then coming back to it at the end, I just had this sort of sense of, oh, there you are, there I am. It was like really, really contrasting. I really noticed the difference. I mean, it's just a really interesting exercise, isn't it? Some of the things that I noticed were, I really felt when I was doing the looking. My sister's an artist, and I have always been like, I can't paint, I can't draw, and she's always like, just paint what you see, just paint what you see. And I found myself really looking at it for like almost from an artist perspective, sort of, you know, where colors morph into each other and where the shapes sitting on top of shapes, sitting on top of shapes. I really noticed that with a touch. I was what sort of struck me was that it was very different touching things that I could see to things like I've got a shelf underneath my desk, touching things on the shelf that I couldn't see felt very different, that contrast. Um, I've got a dog sitting behind me and she provided the sounds and the smells very
Yeah.
much so. And I did some mountain walking at the weekend, and I had a massage last night, a really deep tissue massage, and I've really noticed all of the aches. It was almost like I could feel that her fingers sort of still working on my body. There was a really strong sense of, I could feel the pressure of the massage that I had last night because it was quite painful. And just that connecting as we moved outwards. My son is upstairs and I could suddenly hear him. And then I could hear my neighbours on the other side of the wall. And then I thought about my sister who actually lives in Spain, and what connects us is our love of dogs, and we both have dogs. So there was all these sort of connections sort of popping up. So I really loved it. It's great.
Oh, lovely. And I love the way that you sort of said that the hub was a different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those words literally came into my mind. Ah, there you are,
There
there
you
I
are.
am.
That
Yeah.
gave me shivers. Yeah, there you are, there I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mm.
I found it really lovely as well. Thank you, Caroline. A similar sort of experience to Denise in the initial, I found it hard to track down the hub, and I think it was more kind of here, somewhere up here. But by the end, it was very much actually it was sort of here like an inverted triangle, but by the end, it was much more in here like an upright triangle,
Oh,
which was
that's
really
interesting. So
really
kind of
nice.
above
And
your head.
yeah,
Yeah,
from above and yeah, up here somewhere
an inverted.
to inner, yeah.
Wow.
And much more solid. And I thought the thoughts part was really interesting. Not only you said about the word thoughts, but visual thoughts as well. And I think I had a few of those sort of just kind of sort of lying there dormant, and some of them maybe could do with being energized a little, and others could do with just drifting away, maybe staying dormant. And I thought the point about sense of trust of the body was interesting. I'm just recovering from a back injury, so I think my trust is perhaps less than it may previously have been. So that's I sort of hadn't thought about it in those terms particularly. So that was interesting. Yeah. But yeah, lovely experience, beautifully guided. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. That thing around trust is really important because, you know, we all, including our clients, have different levels of trust at different times in our lives. And certainly, I have a lot of clients who come to me and they're like, I've lived most of my life from my neck and my head. And I know that I want to get in touch with my body, but I have no idea, not a clue. And yet they say that, but actually, that connection back is really quite often quite quick. But it's there is that sense of like, actually, trust isn't an absolute. You know, it is something. And you know, there's something about the wheel of awareness that I feel like, because it's that trying to bring in all of our different senses and ways of being in the world, that it to me it kind of does build that sense of trust. And we can use, you know, the ones which, you know, for me actually touch is the one that settles me. I sometimes I walk around with my daughter, she lives in Manchester, and I'm stroking the stones. When she was younger, she'd be like, don't do that, mum. And now she's like, just rolls her eyes in a very sort of indulgent way towards me, really. But it's you know, knowing what the thing is that returns you to yourself and allows you to be in the world, is very precious. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I walk my dog in the woods every morning, and I you know, I don't count because I just lose. I touch so many trees and branches, and some of them are the same ones I touch every day. You know, the ones that I walk under, and I have it's almost become a sort of ritual that I'm touching them. but I just feel that different, I'm always kind of like different leaf textures, different bark textures. I think I hadn't really thought about that before. I think probably for me, touch is the one that calms me as well. Then and my children are, you know, probably like you, grown up now, but I still feel the need to touch them, squeeze them, rub them. So I think I'm a toucher. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's something about it. I think, you know, listening to you is the richness of life around you when you are intentionally using your different ways of attending to what the world is in the world and what's in you as well. And it's, you know, and we do go on default so easily, and we kind of, you know, what this practice and other practices do is that it enables us to go back to being centered, and centered to me is a neutral place. You know, it's a place where then actually we can then respond to what is happening around us and in us. With a sense of that richness and that life force. So I'm not quite sure where to go from here, really. So, you know, I've got my sort of Dan Siegel slides, but I kind of feel a bit like, well, we've kind of done that. So I'm not quite sure what, yeah, what's your sense of if you would like to go anywhere from here, or whether actually this feels kind of quite complete in itself?
Feels complete to me.
Yeah, I agree. It feels
Yeah.
complete.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's
Yeah.
it's a short and, you know, perfectly formed. What do they say?
Yeah.
Small and perfectly formed. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you plan to send the slides out, it would be a lovely reminder. If that's
Yes. Yes, I will.
part of the plan, that would be great. But no, it's
Yeah.
been a really lovely time. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's been
Yeah.
lovely having you here and to play with this this gorgeous centering practice.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Thanks so
Bye.
much. See you
Bye.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.